everyone. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 182.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. We're back. A couple weeks off, but we're back at it.
Yes, sir.
You guys got to see lots of clips from old episodes. I think literally just 2 seconds before I started recording this, I saw Ella was posting clips from our Christmas podcast from last year.
Wow. Dang, we're going to do that again this year?
I was just thinking about that. We got to do something.
Yeah.
Something special. Maybe even just decorate this up here a little bit, get a little tree somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
I could put on this TV the
fireplace.
The fireplace. That'd be pretty tight, right?
You're really going to do it now?
Christmas fireplace. Let's see what we got here. Oh, here we go. This looks nice.
Are you just finding it on
Sound
YouTube?
Off. Get this thing going. Oh, and it's live also. That is hilarious.
It's live.
Here, check this out. Check this out. Let's see how long it takes me to do this. There we go. Oh, yeah. Let
me twist it over real quick for the...
I mean, that's kind of a vibe.
Yeah. Look at that, everybody.
It's fine. It's for us, not for the people.
I think that's a good.
You get a little taste of it.
Yeah, get a little bit. Yeah.
So yeah, Christmas coming up. Pretty exciting.
It sure is. Got to make it through Thanksgiving first.
I know. Okay, so I'm still crushing the game on coming prepared with topics. I don't have a ton of them today, but we'll see how long these ones take. How about that?
That sounds good. I mean, hey.
So I want to start off with an email that I received on the 16th, so 2 days ago.
Okay.
So as many know, many longtime listeners, obviously we did a couple of different podcasts talking about behavioral euthanasia, right? And we talked about client experiences. We talked about my own experience with it. And I swear that since we did that podcast, 2 years ago maybe? Something like that? It's been a while.
It's been a bit. That
video doesn't have the most views out of all of our podcast episodes, but I have received either more comments or more... Actually, let's put it this way. A lot of comments on it, but I've received so many emails, direct messages, et cetera, of people talking about how much that podcast helped them either come to grips with a decision that they need to make regarding their dog and or help them become okay with a decision that they made regarding a dog in the past. So maybe they've already done it. Maybe it happened 2 years ago, but they hold this regret of making that decision to put their dog down for behavioral reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
And have told me that, that podcast specifically helped them to be able to be okay with it, right?
Okay.
So I got an email from a guy 2 days ago. I actually haven't even read all of this yet.
Okay.
But I do think that I want to share it.
Yeah,
so
please.
Let's do it.
Give it to us.
We'll keep his name private. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. I gotta get my eyeballs in reading mode. Get them back in the groove. What the? Oh, come on! It's the advertisements. Bummer. Okay. All right, here we go. Serious face. Hey, David. I just finished watching your podcast on BE, behavioral euthanasia. At the end of the podcast, you asked if anyone has a story to share it with you. So here is the story of my wife and I owning Baxter. We rescued Baxter at 8 months old from a pet store, from a pet rescue. Baxter was set to be euthanized in the next week if he did not find a family. I saw this dog, and I don't know what it was, but that dog was my dog. He was meant to come home with us and be ours. That's just what needed to happen. At this time, we had a pity mix breed dog at home with us. Just thought I would add that in. The rescue had little info on this dog. Said good with kids and other dogs, and that's it. We bring him home and introduce the dogs together. They had their moments, but we were able to shut everything down, and things turned out pretty good, considering one is a pity and Baxter was an American Bulldog mix. We introduced my youngest son to Baxter as soon as we got home. The post for the dog said good with kids. My son was standing in front of Baxter, and that was sitting down, and I instantly saw a slight tweak in his body language. Just before I could get between them, Baxter lunged at my son. That was it. This dog was going back. Everyone said that you have to give the dog a chance. He's in a new place with new people, probably scared, whatever. We keep him, but we are working with a trainer. Sign him up for training, and it went so-so. I had a lot of info presented to me, which was great, but I just knew that this trainer wasn't for Baxter. We had a series of lunges while on walks against people and other dogs. Keep in mind, the dog that I have at home is Baxter's best friend. They had their times, but we never worried about them being together. They were both crated and separated when we were out at work and never a big issue. So we searched for a trainer, and she was known for working with behavioral issues. Had her come to the house, and both dogs were not inviting. She did a few things with Baxter to see how he did, and at first it was good. Then I saw that slight tweak. I wish I could explain what it was. It wasn't an actual movement. It was just something I knew was going to happen. Baxter was standing by her side, and she applied very little pressure on his leash to get him to sit. He did, then jumped and bit her in the hand. I was freaked out and thought, fuck, this dog is crazy, at the drop of a hat, etc. She said no, he's not bad. He just needs work. We agreed to stay and train for both dogs, and she came a few days later and picked both dogs up and took them to her facility. We went after the week, and she showed us with us in placing the dogs, and we knew Baxter had to be tied and placed if friends were over, and we e-collar trained him. I walked with a muzzle on, which oddly enough was like a security blanket for him. Time went on, and like you, we had 5 instances where Baxter showed his aggression, only because we got sloppy and made mistakes. This dog was a loving, big dog and just wanted to be around us. I have never met a dog that wanted to work as bad as he did. It was like he knew his anxiety and wanted to work through it with us, but would eventually slip back into it. Last week, I was getting home from a week-long work trip, and all I wanted was to see the dogs, give them treats, and feel normal after being away. We got home, and our daughter was there, which was no big deal. My wife had Baxter on his tie, and me not even thinking because our daughter had been in the house a million times with Baxter, and he had never reacted to family, I let him off. We ran around the house. The dogs had their treats, and what I thought was Baxter getting on the couch for a pet or cuddle turned into him attacking our daughter. This was not a bite and retreat and feel bad. This was an attack to not let go. I picked the dog off of my daughter and put him away. After this, we knew something had to be done. We thought we could build a large kennel enclosure for him. Everything to keep this dog. We called our trainer and told her what happened. She said, I can't make the decision for you, but all I could say is you can't account for 100% of his actions and our slip-ups. We decided to euthanize him. Our vet is so good, they knew Baxter and would make after-hours appointments for us, or if he was coming in during regular hours, they had a room ready for him. They knew he was coming in muzzled and did a fantastic job at always keeping him calm. So leading up to the appointment, we spent his last 2 days playing and running outside and eating his favorite meals. He would be his loving self and melt into us. On the way to the vet, we stopped in a farmer's field, and he just got to be completely free for one of the handful of times in his life. After that, we could never be prepared for what took place after. The grief, the questions of did we do the right thing? We could have done more for him. That was harder than actually having Baxter at home with us. Baxter has only been gone a few days, and I frantically look for videos or anything to make me feel better about our decision. I don't know if this is Baxter showing me it's okay, but I found your podcast and your story is so close to ours, I know we did the right thing. Like you said, there are way more stories out there that are worse than ours. I know in my heart he is not suffering from his own head anymore, and we don't have to worry about keeping him and others safe. I just wanted to reach out because I feel compelled to honor Baxter and his story. I'm so proud of him and want to tell everyone about him and how we lived for over 6 years and that we worked with him and he worked with us. He wasn't the stereotypical bully breed that is out to attack. He was a big suck. I don't know if that's the right word or not. If I could just help the dog owner with his story, I would be so proud that he is helping people by his life and story. Thanks so much for all you do for people and their dogs and just want to work together. I can't say thank you enough for making the podcast 2 years ago. 2 years, there we go. I am slowly making my peace with this and can tell you that you just helped get over one huge hurdle. Keep up what you do, and thank you.
Wow.
That's
That's
a nice
awesome.
email, guys.
Yeah. That was a great email. And, I mean, what do you say? They had the dog for about 6 years?
Yeah, sounds like it.
I mean, you gave that dog a great life, you know? And they did everything right and perfect, you know? But sometimes, like...
Well, right and...
Go ahead.
Right and perfect is...
Subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective because it's like they did everything right and perfect from the standpoint of they recognized a problem right away. Mm-hmm. They hired a trainer right away. They realized that trainer wasn't a good fit. They found another trainer. Mm-hmm. They sent him to training. They clearly implemented all this management along the way, right? They were successfully able to, it sounds like for almost 6 years, if I'm reading this email correctly, not have any incidents, but maybe they did. He said they had 5 incidents. He didn't get into detail with all of them, obviously. But regardless, they clearly made an effort to get past the problem, right?
Yep.
So this is where you get into what we were talking about in the last episode or something, like, you know, the owner guilting and like, you know, this and that. It's like, you know, we could say all day long, like we could pick stuff like this apart and be like, oh God, like, well, you shouldn't have done this. And like, this is a big red flag. And this is, you know what I mean? Like we could do that all day long. But in the end of the day, emails like this highlight, especially for the people that are doing behavioral modification work, right? Training dogs that have serious behavioral issues, that these are the kinds of people that are our clients, people that want to do best by their dog, but they're dog owners. They're not dog trainers, right? And even all of us as dog trainers, I am a dog trainer, but with my dogs, though I could channel more of that dog trainer mentality in my day-to-day than a lot of people can, I am still a dog owner at heart.
Yeah.
And that means that we are going to act like dog owners sometimes. And that means not always being a fucking dog trainer, slipping up sometimes, doing things you technically shouldn't do, right? So it's hard because like there's a lot of trainers out there that would read this. Like, let's say that they reached out to a trainer. Like I'm very happy that it sounds like when they reached out to their trainer, that trainer said, you know, I can't make the decision for you, but all I could say is that you can't account for 100% of his actions and our little slip ups.
Yep.
That's 100% true. I can't make this is what I tell my clients too that are in this situation. I can't make the choice for you, but you have to weigh out the risk to reward, right? Like what is your risk tolerance? What could happen if something goes wrong? And is that a risk you're willing to take with your dog?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's something like the dog biting somebody, whether it's something like the dog going after another dog, whether it's something like, you know, the dog just not listening when you take them off leash somewhere, right? Like we can't make the decisions for you, but there are going to be times you can't account for 100% of things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm really glad that they had a trainer that would not sugarcoat it and say other things. It's like,
and where I was getting with that is like, there's a lot of trainers that would read that and their first thought would go to like, well, you screwed this up and 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 like make them feel like shitty over it instead of just being like, like you clearly put in your all, but like as time goes on and we get comfortable, we get complacent with things and we slip with things. And like, that's kind of what happens. Yeah. Right. It's such a tough topic, you know, because it's like there's so much hope for some dogs, right? And I think I talked about this in the actual episode, right, that we did. Like there are so many dogs that are not that bad and they do not need to be put down, right? Or in our opinion, they do not need to put down, right? And we could help work through them. But there are also some where it's just like, God, like I know we want to help the dog, right? But like the dog probably should have been put down before even going into the home. Right? Like this situation, like they adopted him and they said the day they brought him home, he lunged and tried to bite their son. And this rescue told them dog's good with people and other dogs, right? There is absolutely no chance, unless they had this dog in their care for like one day, right? And like the dog was just shut down that entire day that like they didn't see any problems. But even then, like if the dog is so shut down, you're not seeing the problems, like as a rescue organization, I would not take that as a true assessment of who the dog is. Right. But like, you can't tell me that over the whole time the rescue had him, that they truly never saw any problems, you know? I don't know, you know? So it's tough, man, you know? And man, it's like, I don't remember what podcast episode it was. We were talking to somebody else. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was Dylan up in Canada, I think it might have been, where we were talking about like solving the crisis of like behavioral problems with dogs. It's like, goddamn, it's like, it's so, it's so controversial of a take. And I don't even know if I fully believe this take, but like if rescues just like had this obligation to, at the first sign of any sort of aggression, right? Anything. I'm not even talking bite, because like a lot of them hold it to bite. Like if the dog has a bite on their record, they'll put them down, right? Not all of them, but some of them, If at any sign of aggression, right? Like the actual intent for the dog to do harm, they just put these dogs down and focused all their resources into the good dogs. God, I might put myself out of fucking business, but like, like, I don't know, it's like, it'd be very interesting to see like what happened, in that world. Because this is what happens is like, every rescue page you go to, like they're not posting about the easy dogs. You know what I mean? Like every post you see is like trying to get donations to help either a dog with behavioral issues or to help a dog with like serious medical issues. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody is going to try their best like this family did. Yeah. That's the thing. Like they got 6 years with the dog because they literally took every single step to make it work.
The other thing too is like in this email, he said, the first sign that he saw that the dog went after his son, he said, that's it. Dog needs to go back. Yeah. He said that at the beginning, which is the logical right thing to say. You know what I mean? Like that is what you should do as a parent. Like if the dog, you get to bring this dog into your house, I don't even have a fucking emotional attachment to this dog yet, but like, no, you try and bite my son, like you're not going to stay here. Yeah. Right. Like, especially given that like his son wasn't really doing anything stupid, it sounds like, that put him in that position to begin with. Then he probably went to go take the dog back and the shelter gave him a fucking hard time about it. Yeah. And listen, I always do this, right? Like, I'm making assumptions here, but like I've seen it so many times before that like I would just, if I had to put money on what happened, I would say that's probably what happened.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like for sure.
It just like really like, and I'm just like, I'm brainstorming and talking out loud here, but it's like sometimes when I have these conversations and speak out loud about this stuff, like my brain just constantly goes back to like, damn, like this all kind of starts with the shelters. It doesn't all say, it's not, I'm not blaming every shelter out there, but it does start with shelters taking a much more responsible approach to the dogs that they're homing out, and what they do with them, and what they put their resources into. Because I'll tell you, there's probably very few easy dogs that rescues have needed to put thousands and thousands of dollars into. Yeah. Very few, right? But there's a lot of dogs that probably behaviorally were just too far gone that wound up getting put down, or dogs with horrendous medical conditions that, have cost rescues thousands of dollars, and then just like people weren't able to upkeep with the medical expenses once they were homed out, or people weren't able to handle the behavioral issues once they were homed out, that wound up getting put down, where you're just like pouring that money down the drain, Yeah,
I agree.
And then, past just the financial side of things, it's like you're sending dogs home that are hurting people, like there's so many situations where people get lucky, but it's like, damn, like, this situation, his son got lunged at, son was okay though, right? Second situation, daughter got like attacked by this dog, right?
Could have been terrible.
Yeah. And God, like there's another, I don't remember what podcast we talked about this in, but it's like, again, I could look at this and based on the email, I could point out probably 4 or 5 different places where I was like, oh, well, this is a little bit of a, I don't even want to say red flag, but like it's a little bit of a flag that like, maybe you shouldn't have done this. Maybe things would have been a little better if you didn't do this or you did this or whatever it may be. But like at the same time, there are also a lot of dogs out there that you could run the same exact life. Like if you looked at like the life somebody lives with their dog, like a program, like you would program something on a computer, right? And then you plug something into it. If you take this person's whole life of the 6 years they owned this dog and everything they did every day with the dog over those 6 years, and you just plug in a different dog into that, there are just so many dogs out there that you plug them into this type of lifestyle, and you would never run into the problems that you ran into.
Yeah. But like you said earlier, just dog owners, Yeah. You can't expect them to do everything perfect.
So I don't know. So I thought that email,
That was a great email.
Every time I get emails like this, I like it because, like you said, he's been frantically looking for videos or anything to make him feel better about their decision, right?
Yeah.
There is no circumstance in which you're like, oh my God, you're just like truly okay with the decision you make, right? Yeah. Like in my case, like I was more okay with it because I knew that I had truly tried and done as much as I could. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I work with dogs enough like this to know that. But like to your average owner, I couldn't even imagine the mental turmoil of it, especially when I hear stories from people. I've got clients that have dogs with aggression issues and stuff, and their friends and family just make them feel like fucking idiots over the decisions that they make, whether it's management techniques they put in place, or I've had people tell me before that they've put a dog down and a family member just makes them feel like awful over it.
Yep.
You know? So it's like, especially if you're not confident in the things that you're doing, I can totally see how that would be horrible. You know, that would be terrible. You just second guess everything. And then it's like, oh my God, this thing that I loved so much and cared about so much. Like, you know, I'm you know, I fucked up, right? I could have made it work, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not until those people get another dog that they really become okay with the decision they make. And the reason for that is because, you know, I've had a lot of clients before, one in particular that I could think of that had a dog that was very dangerous, right? And the dog actually lived out its whole life. It died of cancer, right? Not because of behavioral, because they did such a good job of managing the dog. But the dog finally died, and then, not finally, right? The dog died.
Yeah.
And then they got another dog, right? And it was like, as soon as they got this other dog, and they realized all the things that they can do with this dog, you know, like all the places where like, you know, people would come over and they would have the dog out. They'd be so stressed initially and then realize like, oh, wait a minute, this dog isn't aggressive. Right. And it's like, you start realizing, holy shit, like all this burden that you felt living with this other difficult, you know what I mean? Like
it just goes away.
It goes away. And then finally, I think they can become okay with the decision that they made. Cause it's like, they realize, oh, that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm sure it's the same, again, morbid, crazy examples here, but like, I'm sure it's the same with people in like horrible, like domestic violence, like relationships and stuff, where they think this relationship they have with this terrible individual is like normal, you know? And then they finally get out of it and they go into a good relationship. And it's like, they have all this PTSD from it. But then it's like, they start realizing, oh, I don't have to be so concerned and stressed out all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Very much so. I just, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but yeah, it's just like you get so hung up on this is what it's like, you know? I mean, even for them, they had that other dog prior, you know, and they probably forgot what that normalcy was like. When they brought this new dog in, and they just thought, I mean, for 6 years, well, we just kind of got to work with it.
Yeah.
When I'm sure, I know it was a tough decision, but after it was probably kind of they could finally breathe, you know?
Yeah.
Not have to worry about things.
And it's, you know, it's one of those things where, again, it is a hard balance, because like I understand when people already have a dog and they have serious behavioral issues. It's like, I love this dog, I want to do whatever I can to help this dog, and it's like there are so many situations where it does work out fine, right? You know, in the less extreme situations. So it's like, anytime I talk about behavioral euthanasia, I always have to like have these like fine, delicate caveats to it of like, I'm not saying everybody that has behavioral issues should put their dog down, right?
Yes, no, not what we're saying.
You know, like like I said, there's a lot that can be done to help improve things, but you know, but there are definitely some situations where everybody's line is different with it. Everybody's life is different with their dog, but once it crosses that line, you know, one of my big rules has always been like, when children are involved, the safety of children, you know, that's generally a hard line that I hold with things, you know? So yeah, you know?
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, like, especially that the second case with the daughter, I mean, after that, it's never going to be the same. Never.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're always going to be worried about it.
Yeah. We're dealing with a situation right now that's a rescue situation. And I won't share all the details of it, obviously, but it's a dog that came to us that I think the behavioral issues were maybe a little bit downplayed prior to them signing up. The rescue signed this dog up for training. And this wasn't a recent one. So if anybody's trying to snoop on our page and see what rescues we've worked with recently, you're not going to find it. But, the dog wound up being, not great. Resource guarding, stuff like that. They homed the dog out to somebody, right? The dog bit the person, and the person was like not following any of the direction, right, that we implemented, right, or told them that they should be implementing, right? Rescue took him back, homed him to somebody else. Resource guarding wasn't an issue, but like these people were just like, they're just like very wishy-washy about like following the training, and like couldn't really progress things past like where they wanted it to be. And like, they like returned the dog, then took the dog back. And it was like just like a weird situation. They've had the dog now for a while. And now, they're trying to they want to return him formally. Right. And now they want to try to home him out again to somebody else. Right. And it's like, this individual they want to hold him out to now at this point is not old, but older, right? And it's, a dog that has a history of resource guarding issues. And it's like, we had to tell him, like, guys, like, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you keep wasting all these, you've already spent all this money on this dog, right? From the standpoint of like boarding him and training him and all the money they spent on him when he was in the rescue. And I was like, listen, like, I understand like you invested money into this dog, and you want to try to make it work, but I was like, I'm not even worried about the money at this point, right? Yeah. Like it's just like from a safety standpoint and like from like an ethical standpoint, you can't keep tossing this dog around and putting him in a position where he's going to like possibly hurt somebody.
Right.
You've got to cut the cord on it at some point, and take all this forget money again. Take all this time that people are investing into this dog and put it into other ones that are going to have a higher probability of success. Yeah. And we are currently in the middle of having that conversation with them, of figuring out how they can handle it. And I'm like, listen, like you spent money on training for the dog. I was like, I'll just train another dog of yours, right? Like I will help you with another dog, right? Just make the right decision with this dog. Because it's like, you tried, right? You tried and it didn't work out. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You tried.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah. You just got to know when to pull the cord, especially,
it's an emotional industry.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, you don't want to feel like you let them down. And it's like, you see all the possibility. Like in the first case, the first home they sent this dog to, like I said, he bit them, and it was over like, it wasn't a bad bite. Right. And it was like over really like dumb things. Like it actually wasn't a bad bite at all. Like barely even broke skin. Right. But it was over them doing kind of like quote unquote dumb things, right? The second one, the resource guarding was not even a problem. Like they followed that to a T, but like they have a very complex situation where they have like multiple other dogs in the home and like they travel a lot. And it's like they like, like of all the things that could have been a possible issue with him in these situations, it's like, like their only issue they really had with him was that he was being a little reactive on their walks. It's like, like all the things that he could get returned for, like not really that big of a deal, frankly, right? But regardless, it didn't work out, and it's like, that puts this light to the rescue in their mind of like, oh, look, like, see, he was able to get past the resource guarding issues. So he could obviously get past the reactivity issues as well. It's like, well, yeah, he could. But like every time you flip flop this dog into another house, you increase all the stress, right? Yeah. Increase the probability that there's going to be another incident that you guys run into, right? And it's like, you can only get lucky for so long. Like, we forget these dogs have the ability to kill people. Right? We forget that sometimes. So.
Yeah. In the wrong house, like an elderly household or something like that. I mean,
100%.
Oof.
It's tough.
That is a tough one.
And this is why we only have like very approved rescues that we work with. Like this is a weird situation with this one, it's not one we work with all the time, and that's why we're really helping them to make the right choice in this situation and moving forward, right? Yeah. So that's that. That's topic 1. Let's segue this. Are you ready? I like segue.
Yeah.
I like when I can connect a thing.
Yeah. How are we connecting this one? This is going to be fun.
This is an easy segue. You'll find out. This is just a comment we received recently on YouTube, right? And you'll understand as soon as I read it how it segues.
Okay. Topic 1 took a lot of time. Look at that.
Yeah,
You're back.
I'm back. Where the hell is it? Here we go. Okay. All right. Somebody commented on a video saying, "It is crazy that all the dogs I've ever had have not been reactive to people at all and just a lovely dog." And they're saying, they put like crying, laughing emoji faces, and it's on a video where we're talking about dogs growling and stuff. So basically they're being a smart ass saying like, well, when you know how to train your dog properly, you don't have issues, right? So I said, crazy that you've been lucky up until this point.
Right.
And they said, I plan on keeping myself lucky, raising my future dogs the same way that's been working out for me. Okay, bro.
He wants a pat on the back.
This segues because it's like people do sometimes just get really lucky with the dogs that they have.
Yeah.
Really lucky.
Yeah.
Really lucky. Right? And like, again, like even as dog trainers, we can look at it a million ways, right? For me, all the dogs I've owned in my life have been of varying different difficulties, right?
Yeah.
And like some of them have just been easy as fucking cake, right? No problems, no issues, right?
Yep.
Super easy to actually train, stuff like that. Others have had behavioral issues they needed to work through. Like Cade, my German Shepherd, had aggression issues, right? Vinny, my Malinois, didn't have like, I hesitate to call it aggression issues, but like he was just a fucking weirdo. He's a Malinois. He's very skeptical of new people. You know, he had, you know, some quote unquote issues with people when he was younger. He was really difficult to train because of his like energy and stuff like that. You know, Vera, easy, right? Deli, easy, but some dog aggression issues, you know. Waffles, easy, but fucking terrified of everything, which presents a level of difficulty to things.
Yeah.
And I could look at the end product of every one of them and say, all of my dogs are great dogs. And they are, right? Like, they're all good, right? But sometimes I forget that every one of those dogs, I have a layer of management in place that are so minimal and so fucking, you know, like minor in some cases that it's like I forget it's even management. I just think like, oh yeah, there's good dogs, right? But there's layers of management in place, and those layers of management are in place because I know each one of my dogs has their own genetic limitations of how far they're going to be able to get with certain things or what they need in order to thrive and be successful. That I just think to myself, you know, I'm just the greatest fucking dog trainer in the world, and that's why they're just good dogs. But it's like, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because there are, with some of the dogs, some of my dogs or some of our clients' dogs, the level of management needs to be really high, right? And if you can't hold them to that level of management, genetically, they're going to like tear your life apart because, you know, because they're just challenging, right? Or they're going to be a liability because they're aggressive, right? And I think some people genuinely just get really, really, really lucky that they own a small number of dogs over the course of their entire life. And every single one of those small dogs that they own, or every single one of those dogs in their small amount of life that they've owned, have just been ones that require such little management in order to be successful.
Yeah.
You know? It's like people act like this, like, I hear it a million times. I'm sure this person would be one of those people that would say the same thing. It's like, oh, I've been able to train all my own dogs, right? It's like, I always ask the question, like, how many dogs have you owned in your life?
Right.
Even on a really, really generous level, let's say you are, I don't know, you've been owning dogs since you've been 18 years old living on your own, and you have 2 dogs. Let's say you have, let's get crazy here. I'm going to do some math, right?
He's getting crazy with it.
Average life of a dog, we'll just put 10 years, right? Let's say you have 4 dogs at a time.
Yeah.
And from 18 till you fucking die, right? Let's say 90. Let's say you lived to 90, right? 18 to 90. How many years is that? 90, 80, 72. So 72 years divided by 10. So we're saying 7.2 groups of dogs.
Yeah.
At 4 dogs. What do we got? You guys know when I start doing math on the podcast, things get crazy.
Yeah. He's getting wild.
So that's a total of 28.8 dogs.
Yeah.
From 18 to 90.
Yeah.
That you've owned in your life. I bet you it's not even close to that number. Right? First
100%. Yeah.
Right? Let's split that in half. Let's use 28.8 dogs, right? Mm-hmm. I have more than 28.8 dogs at my facility right now. Right? Like the amount of dogs we have seen versus the amount of dogs you have seen, like it's too small of a fucking sample size.
Yeah.
You can't, nobody can go off of their individual experience with dogs and say that, unless they're working with other people and their dogs also, right? Mm-hmm. And can say that they've seen it all.
Yeah.
You know, that they just are so good that they know how to train any dog that's presented in front of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because even when I started professionally training dogs, right, and I did work with 28 dogs, or I worked with 50 dogs, right? I wasn't presented with half of what I've seen now after, 11 years of doing this or so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say...
And that is such a generous number.
That's a very generous number. There's not very many people that have 4 consistent dogs their entire life. Mm-hmm. But I will say I was kind of like that person because all my life we had dogs growing up. Every dog was great. And I thought, life with dogs is easy.
Life with dogs is easy.
And then Titan became part of my life.
Yeah.
And boy, did I realize I had no idea about dogs, really.
Yep.
I mean, that's how we like really connected in before like the filming and everything was through Titan.
What was your first experience of meeting Tyson yourself? Because Tyson, she had him before you knew her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about you meeting that dog for the first time.
It wasn't great.
Yeah.
Because she was living with her mom at the time. Mm-hmm. And the first time I came over, it was Titan's he's a little crazy. Like I get, just let him be. We'll go on a walk with him, And yeah, he like did the whole bark, at me the first time. The first time you ever met him was the same thing. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Like this dog is insane, and then like I had to take the little steps to finally gain his trust and all that. But I mean, you know how he was with other dogs and everything like that. So that definitely changed my perspective on dog training and how little I knew about dogs.
Yeah.
But I was that blind, like I just had perfect dogs for 18
Owning
years.
Dogs is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine people that like their first dog they get is a pain in the ass. I got lucky with Vera was my first dog, right?
Yeah.
And she is like the most ideal dog.
Yeah.
I feel like,
yeah.
The only downside that she has to her, like literally, I think I'll give you 2 downsides, right? Okay. Downside 1, she's so food motivated. Mm-hmm. That bitch was sneaky.
Yeah.
Yo, she still to this day is the dog that if you leave a little food that's like kind of within, within a grabbing abilities of her, she's an opportunist. She will take advantage of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's downside number 1. Downside number 2, the rescue world's going to fucking hate me after this, but she's a pit bull, right? She's part pit bull. And I get myself in trouble here. Those fucking pit bulls got that teeny little inch, itch in them to want to fight another dog.
Yeah.
So, she's been in a handful of nothing. Well, she's been in a couple major fights before, like with Deli. I've shared my fighting dog experience as well with you a million times. But she's been in a couple little scraps with other dogs. She's a dog that if there's a fight going on, she kind of wants to get herself into it a little bit.
Get a little tussle.
But it's weird because like she is like there's like I'm really getting myself in trouble with pit bull stuff today. There's like levels to this, right?
Yeah.
This like pit bull dog aggression thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like the bottom level, is the social ish pit bulls,
The social-ish.
which are the ones that actually socialize extremely well with other dogs. But under the right circumstances, it could come out of them. Vera's in that category, right? She's the dog that I used to, when she was younger, I would use her all the time to help like introduce her to other dogs and stuff, and she'd be fine, right? But there's just been those couple little circumstances where, that it comes out of her a bit.
Yeah.
Then you have like level 2, which is really fucking dog reactive pit bulls, but then they socialize fine under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
Then you have the ones that are just fucking straight up like game bred.
Yeah.
you got the game bred pit bulls. Those dogs just want to fucking fight other dogs.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. But like, I warn clients all the time that have pitties, like they're great dogs. I love them. I got 2, right? I like them.
Yeah.
But I warn everybody that has them, especially people that have the social-ish pit bulls. I just warn them, guys, I'm so happy your dog socializes well, but please just don't take them to the dog park because under the right circumstances, something may happen. We had one that comes to us all the time. This dog, Gracie, right? And Gracie was the social pit bull owned by the loving family that just loved her. So like they would take her everywhere and socialize her all the time, stuff like that. And she would just always be fine. Always be fine. And then I remember just one day, the right circumstances of things happen.
Yep.
And that bitch tried to go after another dog.
Yeah.
And the owners were so shocked. They were like, oh my God. Like, how could this happen?
Where did this come from?
Where did this come from? And it's like, social-ish.
Social-ish.
Yeah. What the hell was I getting at? Oh, yeah, we were talking about getting lucky with dogs. So a lot of people just get lucky. Even if you've owned 28.8 dogs in your entire life at 90 years old. And most of the people that tell me this are like 40, like or 45 or something. So it's like, what's the math on that? Like fucking, 10 dogs,
maybe
something like that. So that's, that's how you get lucky with dogs.
Very lucky. Insane.
I don't really have a segue to the next one. So the last comment here was somebody sent an email the other day, and they were asking me, how do I introduce a puppy to an existing dog in my household? This is a concern a lot of people have. And this individual is somebody I've been working with virtually for a while now. And they have a dog that's not a bad dog, reactive dog, right? Always been a little bit dog selective-ish, right? And we've made some great strides with the reactivity just virtually, right? They live out of state, obviously, and made a lot of progress, and things went pretty well. But they're getting a new puppy, and they just want to make sure that they do things right. So she was asking for advice on how to handle it, and she was like, "Oh, do you have any videos on it? This, that?" And I was like, "Man, I'm sure we've talked about it a million times." But I don't know if I have anything like formal to send, right? So I want to kind of talk about introducing a puppy to your household. And I'm going to kind of do the crash course into it because, you could do a whole episode on this, which maybe we'll continue it next time. Who knows? So I think a lot of people get really concerned about introducing a new dog to their current household, obviously, which I understand being concerned, but I think people don't realize that it generally goes way easier than you think it's going to go. Right. I think there's something to, even with the most dog aggressive dog, once the new dog is in the house and that dog realizes this thing just isn't going away. Yeah. It just gets better, True. So introducing a new dog to your house is the exact same thing as socializing your dog with another dog. Now, what are the rules of socializing a dog with another dog? Making sure that the socialization is about the dogs, making sure there's no resources for the dogs to fight over, so food, toys, and affection, and keeping it in short chunks where you could keep your eyes on them. Yep. Right? Now, let's look at this from the lens of bringing a dog into the house. How is it any different? It isn't. The only difference is that you're treating your life with the dogs in the home for the first handful of weeks as micro socials throughout the day. Yeah. And the mistake a lot of people make is they just throw them together. They're like, you guys live together now. No different than when you have a housemate coming over or a family member who's staying with you for a weekend or something like that. people treat it like they just live together now, and everything that you guys do, you do it together. And as the time goes on, since you're never separating them, you're going to encounter them together around food. You're going to encounter them together around toys. You're going to encounter them together around affection, right? And you're going to run into the problems because they haven't established a relationship with each other outside of those things first. So what you need to do is you need to, one, set up the house in a way where you can separate them as you need to, because you're going to be having a lot of time separate, right? Thing number two, individually, you're going to set the rules of the house with each of the individual dogs, right? So your new dog, you should be able to, over the course of the first week, address jumping, address the dog waiting for their food. You should be able to address them not getting onto the counters, not barking out the window at things, stuff like that, right? If you're doing your training right, you should be able to set those boundaries pretty quickly, which eliminates a lot of the need for the dogs to fight with each other. With your original dog, you should have those things addressed already, right? And then from there, for 1 hour chunks multiple times throughout the day, you're going to let the dogs together with the sole intention of socializing them and supervising it. And then you just build on that. You literally just build on that. And, okay, well, what do I do if they try to fight with each other? Well, if you were just socializing two dogs, what would you do if they tried to fight each other? You would correct them. You would break it up. You know what I mean? Like, you would stop it. You would break it up. And you take it really, really slow. As long as you treat it exactly like I just described, I don't care how bad your dog is, it will improve. It will improve, right? And your dog will let you know when they're ready for more time. So, once they seem comfortable around each other and they're not, going fucking bananas crazy, playing with each other or super stressed out or anything like that, you increase the time a little bit, right? And then you separate them. Then you increase the time a little bit. Then you separate them. Then you increase the time a little bit. Then you separate them, right? And you just build on it that way, right? And it's like, there's almost like I said, I could really get into the weeds with all sorts of different things of do this first and this first and this first. But as long as you treat it that way and you just treat it like micro socials, you will tell when the dogs are good with each other. You just will know. And then as it goes on, it's like you do longer amounts of time. You do 2 hours, then separate them. Then you do 3 hours, then you separate them. Then you start doing all day, right? And then separate them at nights and et cetera, et cetera. And if you follow those rules, you're not going to run into the places that they would fight. Again, feeding time. Feed them in their crates separate. Toy time. Incorporate toys only when they're separate with each other and then put them away outside of that. And it's like, well, when do I put in toys with each other? Once you've had enough time with these dogs living together where you realize there's not a problem with toys. Right? Then you could slowly add them in. And then when you add them in, you make sure, again, what are the rules of having toys out with multiple dogs? The rules of having toys out with multiple dogs is that nobody steals toys from each other. And you got to be in a position to correct if they try to do it. Right? But it's like, you got to walk before you run. They're asking about how do I introduce the dogs? You're not even thinking about fucking toys. Right? Well, when do I get to cuddle on the couch with them together? It's like, well, you're not even there yet. Right? The dog should never be in a position where they're affection, one of the big things dogs would fight over, where they're in a position where they're going to fight over affection. You should never even be in that situation. And this is what I mean about taking it slow. I think a lot of people think taking it slow and they think just time, right? Just like I said, the hour a day, right? But if you have them together for an hour a day and that hour a day is you guys cuddling on the couch watching TV, that's you doing it totally wrong. Right? That's not taking it slow. So micro socials, no food, no toys, no affection. Do it in chunks of 1 hour as many times through the day as you want to do where you could stay supervised, have everything else be totally separate, and then do that for a week. And then once that goes well for a week, do it for another week, but make it 2 hour chunks, right? Then once that's good, do it for 3, right? And then you do that for 2 months, right? And then after 2 months, you should have either not have any problems or highlighted a very serious issue that needs addressed that you probably would just need professional help to address anyways, right? We would consult somebody, then we would get that addressed at that point, right? And then, you start, then you just have them out together all the time. That's just how it works.
Honestly, I feel like just for a puppy, you just have a few extra steps that you're doing on the side to train the puppy.
Things. 100%. If it's a puppy, right, it's a little different. And actually, frankly, it's even more important that you do it exactly like I described, because that's going to help you make sure then outside of that time, instead of that dog just being loose somewhere else behind a gate, it's going to be in a crate. Right? So this is going to help you not just let the dogs get used to being with each other, but make sure that hour chunk multiple times per day that the puppy is out of the crate hanging out with you is time that eyes on the fucking dog. You can make sure you're not having potty training issues. You can make sure the dog's not getting into things they're not supposed to. You can make sure it's not chewing on shit, right?
Yeah.
You can combat all your other behavioral issues that you might experience with a puppy by following this exact rule.
Yep.
And for information on the puppy training side of things, that one we've made formal videos on. That one, when I got Waffles 3 years ago or whatever the fuck, we did like a whole like 3-episode thing on everything I did with him when I first got him. And that one does get into, I'm sure, integrating him with the other dogs a little bit. So those ones would be good ones for you to watch.
So, actually, it randomly came on my phone the other day. It was like episode 42, or it's like 40, 41, 42.
No way. Was it that? Damn, it was that long.
Yeah, it was that long ago.
Wild.
Yep.
So those are the rules. Just do that, right? Don't overthink it too much.
Yeah.
You know, I love using this. I learned this one from Dave Ramsey, I think, right? He says all the time, sometimes you just get paralysis of the analysis.
There it is.
Paralysis of the analysis.
Yep.
Right? Meaning sometimes you think about it too much that you never actually do it. Right? And until you actually do it, you're not going to see. So these are the most basic rules you can implement if you're going to add another dog into your house that I just described, obviously. And you just got to do it and see what happens. Yeah. Listen, if they're going to get in a fight, they're going to get in a fight no matter what you do.
Yeah.
I promise. You know?
Yeah.
I remember Jeff Gellman told me one time, one of the first times I ever met him, he had 2 German Shepherds at the time, Girl and Kira, I believe. And I was like, oh yeah, did you ever have any like issues with them or anything? And he's like, no. He's like, I remember when I went to go pick up Kira, he said it was in his RV. He went in his RV to go pick him up. And he's like, I took both of them and I just threw them into the back of the RV with a bone. And he said, if you're going to fight, get it out of the way now.
Jeez.
You know, like, all right, like, let's not take it that's, you know, take it a little slower than that, obviously. But the point is, and I think the point that he was trying to make was like, guys, like, if there's going to be a problem, let's see it.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't overthink, like, how can I avoid this problem? Right?
True.
Like, if there's going to be a problem,
there's going to be one.
There's going to be a problem, and it's going to have to get addressed, you know? And as you do the socialization, right, in the 1 hour chunks per day, again, this is why we're supervising. This is why I'm not saying, like, do it for an hour and go turn the fucking TV on. I'm saying do it for an hour where you could supervise it, because, like, there might be a problem, and if there is, you separate them.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the most Gelman thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, right.
Put him in the back of the RV, throw a bone at him.
That's what he said. He said, I threw a bone in, said, if you're going to fight, get it out of the way. Hilarious.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there's my 3 topics.
That was a good one to come back on, I think.
Yeah, it's not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
What do you think? Do you have anything you got to add to that?
I do not. I think that email was a wonderful email, though. That was
nice.
So nice.
You know,
it's those affirmations of like, this podcast is doing something.
Well, it's one of those things where, again, us as dog trainers, we're not magicians. We're here to share our experiences so that people can, learn from them. Frankly, it's like your best business gurus out there in the world. Like, it's not like they just like out of the womb knew how to grow a business, right?
Yeah.
They probably made a ton of mistakes along the way, and they were able to grow and develop something by learning from those mistakes. And it's like, what's the point of hiring a coach? A point of hiring a coach or a dog trainer or whatever is to have somebody that has already made the mistakes so that you could sidestep those mistakes by learning from those mistakes.
There it is.
I mean, that's literally it.
Yeah.
Right? So this is one of those situations where, like, I share that experience with people, or the experience of the dogs fighting with each other, any of those types of things, so that people can learn from some of the mistakes I made and either come to grips with the decision that needs to be made faster, feel more okay with the decision they made, or make sure that certain things don't happen in the first place.
Yes.
So that's it.
Love it.
All right, guys, that's it. Catch you on the next one.
See ya.